Okay guys, tonight we're going to look at how nationalism unified two major European countries, Italy and Germany. Now to review, remember a nation and a country are two separate things. A nation is when people come together within a country and they're united around certain common characteristics, such as a national language, a common religion, a common enemy, some type of common culture or heritage, and lastly, a common history if they have a shared experience. Nationalism will be key in unifying Germany and Italy during this time period because prior to this, both countries were separate states. We need to introduce you to this concept called Realpolitik. This is a concept that was created by the guy who unified Germany, Otto von Bismarck, and it basically means the politics of reality, stating that one must be willing to do anything possible to achieve his or her goals. Can you think of what this might mean? Can you think of an example of doing anything possible to win? And then by the end, you need to see how did the leaders of Italy and Germany use this concept, Realpolitik, to unify their respective countries. It all started in the Crimean War. The Crimean War was really the first major European war since that of Napoleon, and it happened in 1853, and Russia basically wanted to expand its trade by attacking the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was in full decline by this point, but England and France had a lot of trade interests in the Ottoman Empire, and they didn't want to see this money that they were making go away, so they fought back against Russia. If you recall, Russia helped Austria out in its revolution in 1848, so they fully expected Austria to return the favor and help them out at war, but Austria declined to fight. OMG. The last part of this puzzle is an Italian state called Piedmont Sardinia, which decided to join the fight and help the Ottoman Empire out. Now, why do you think a small Italian state would enter this war? They have no hatred of Russia, they have no love of the Ottoman Empire, so why do you think they're getting involved? Think of this like a chess move, okay? And as this was the first war into the Industrial Revolution with bigger and badder weapons, bloody chaos ensued. So after Napoleon was defeated, Italy was redrawn into 11 states. 9 of these were controlled by Italy, 2 were controlled by Austria. The Italian nationalists really wanted Italy to be under the control of Italians, not Austrians. As you remember, in 1848, there was an attempt to do this by Giuseppe Mazzini and the Young Italy movement. However, this failed when he led an attack on Rome and the Pope. This new version of unification will come not with one person, but actually 2. The first is a politician. His name is Count Camillo di Cavour, and he's of Piedmont Sardinia. Yes, the same Piedmont Sardinia that volunteered to fight in the Crimean War. The second was Giuseppe Garibaldi of Sicily, who is a writer and a patriot and led a nationalist group called the Red Shirts. I wonder why. So these are the 2 leaders that unified Italy. On the left you see Cavour, very much the politician. On the right you see what looks like a cowboy, but is actually Giuseppe Garibaldi. Remember we said he leads the Red Shirts, a nationalist organization where all you needed to join was, that's right, a red shirt. Now Italy will be unified from 2 directions, not just one direction. Now the main obstacle before this was how do you keep Austria from opposing unification? As I said, Austria controls the 2 areas in the north, as you see, Lombardy and Venetia. Well, Piedmont Sardinia, seeing this, and Cavour really, when they committed to going to war, in the Crimean War, they saw a chance to get some very powerful allies. Well, this really helps them out because in the late 1850s, they will call on one of these allies, France, to help them attack Austria, which is what they do, and they go to war, and they inspire nationalism, and they win lots of land. And so this really would not have been possible without the Crimean War. Now, at the exact same time this is happening in the north, Giuseppe Garibaldi and the red shirts are in the south, crossing over from Sicily into South Italy, and they eventually get to Naples, and it seems like both groups, the Cavour in the north and Garibaldi in the south, are meeting in the middle at Rome. Now, we've seen this movie before. Giuseppe Mazzini, about 10 years earlier, attacked Rome, and the whole movement collapsed. So Giuseppe Mazzini is out of the picture now. Camillo di Cavour will be the person who will realize that this would be a mistake, and he actually beats Garibaldi to Rome, unifies both groups together, and then they declare Italy to be unified in 1860. Now, if you look here, there's really only two territories that aren't part of Italy, Rome and then Venetia. Remember, Rome has the support of France, and so they don't want the French coming in and attacking them, so they'll leave this alone for now. Venetia is Austrian, and so they will wait until later to add Venetia. But basically, Italy is now unified. Now, to the north, Germany has a very similar organization, except they have a lot more states, 38 states, and of these, Prussia and Austria are the two most powerful. If you recall, the 1848 revolution also failed to unify Germany. This is when they had the Frankfurt Assembly, and they couldn't convince the local rulers to come together and share their power. Now, the Chancellor, the Prime Minister of Prussia, Otto von Bismarck, was inspired by what Cavour did in Italy, so he decided to try to do the same thing for Germany. In a famous speech, Bismarck said, "You don't need to make treaties and pass things through Parliament to unify countries." He said this was the mistake of 1848. No, instead you need blood and iron. What do you think blood and iron mean? Here's the old Iron Chancellor right here. Now, Bismarck's a genius. As I said earlier, he invented Realpolitik, so he believed he needed to do anything possible to achieve his goal. This sort of puts him in the category of a modern-day Machiavelli. Now, he realized the power of nationalism, but basically to unify Germany, which spoke the same language, yes, but had different religions and they had different culture because they're in different parts of what is today Germany, there isn't a lot to unify Germany except war. Now, he looked at it like this. He said, we can go to war, and this may unify people, but if people go to war against us, if they invade Germany, then people in Germany will come together as one. So this is really where he's a genius. Every war that he fought, he convinced his enemies to invade Germany, and then he defeated them. There are three separate wars that will lead to overall unification. The first is when he convinces Denmark to invade Prussia, and he asks the Austrians for help, and together they defeat Denmark very easily. In return, they get some land that Denmark used to control. Well, just 2 years later, this land that they won prompted a territory conflict, and so Prussia and Austria decide to go to war against each other. Again, Bismarck basically convinces Austria to invade Prussia. Even more genius, he makes sure that none of the major countries in Europe will ally Austria. So they are by themselves, they're on their own. And this is called the 7 Weeks' War because Prussia defeats Austria in 7 weeks. When they do this, they win a lot of land. One last piece of genius is that Prussia and Bismarck could have been really mean to Austria and given them really harsh terms in the peace treaty. Instead, he's really nice to Austria, knowing he may need them in the future. Now, you'll see this on the map in a second, but basically by this point, Germany is divided into North Germany and South Germany. North Germany is where Prussia is, and this is very unified. It's also very Protestant, and the people in South Germany are more Catholic. And so this is basically North versus South, and Bismarck knows he needs something to bring the two groups together. Now, he basically dares France to invade Germany. He creates this fake story about how the German leader wants to be the King of Spain, but the King of Spain has always been in the same family as the King of France. Now, Bismarck wasn't serious in doing this. He just wanted to make France mad enough to invade Germany. Well, guess what? This happened, and it brought North and South Germany together. Now, as you can see on this map, you can see really how Prussia added a lot of land very quickly. So they went from being Prussia in the north, and they added Schleswig and Holstein when they defeated Denmark. And then when they go to war and defeat Austria, then they create the North German Confederation, what you see in purple and gray. And again, this is separate from the sort of teal color to the south. These two groups will come together when the French decide to invade Germany. This is also Emperor Napoleon III's last stand. He will flee France when he loses to the Germans. Now, one last bit of information about this war versus France. France has one potential ally that could really help them out, and that is Austria. Remember how nice Bismarck was to Austria after defeating them in war? Well, now he cashes in his favor and Austria stays out of it. So now Bismarck is fighting France one-on-one, which he easily wins. Now, adding insult to injury, not only did Germany defeat France in the Franco-Prussian War, they invaded France, actually invaded Paris, and declared their victory inside this room. Can you tell what room this is? It's very famous, and it has lots of mirrors. Okay, so to review, we need to really ask these questions. What made these unification movements so successful? What did guys like Cavour and Garibaldi and Bismarck all have in common in unifying Italy and Germany? And then secondly, how do they do it slightly differently? Okay, and then lastly, how do you think a unified Germany or a unified Italy, how will this affect Europe, especially the balance of power moving forward? That's all I've got. Have a good night.